You can't be serious. I said it, but the words felt hollow, like air escaping a punctured tire. One moment, my tranquil Sunday morning was filled with the promise of a fresh brew and a new book on my sun-drenched patio. The next, a horde of wedding planners, florists, and caterers had descended, transforming my private outdoor space into a gaudy, white-on-white dreamscape. My patio, my home, and there she was, the self-appointed queen of the HOA. Karen, her face a mask of saccharine self-satisfaction. She wasn't just decorating. She was hijacking. For a wedding. Her own daughter's. My heart hammered a frantic, ugly beat against my ribs. What in the actual hell was happening? A floral arch, heavy with white roses and orchids, now stood where my hammock used to hang. Votive candles, flickering with an offensive innocence, lined the flagstone path I had laid myself. I felt my blood run cold. A chilling silence settling over my own shock as the string quartet began a practice run of Pachelbel's canon, their elegant notes a cruel mockery of my disbelief. "Oh, honey," Karen said, her voice dripping with artificial sympathy as she adjusted a satin ribbon on a chair that belonged to me. "You're home. We tried to call, but you never answer. It's so much easier for us to just use this space. It has the best light, doesn't it?" Her condescending smile was a physical blow. The audacity, the sheer, unmitigated gall of it all was a suffocating pressure in my chest. A deep, unsteady breath. My hands, they were shaking. I could feel the heat in my face. A blush of fury and profound injustice. How could she possibly think this was okay? I felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just a mistake. This was a calculated, malicious act of territorial dominance. A theatrical display of her power as the head of our neighborhood association. A low growl escaped my throat, a sound I barely recognized as my own. My mind raced, but it felt like sifting through broken glass. Every thought sharp and useless. There had to be a way out of this nightmare. There had to be. The quiet, simmering rage had now become a cold, calculating fire. I retreated inside, the double-paned glass muffling the cheerful chaos outside. The sound of the string quartet faded into a distant, buzzing annoyance. I paced, my footsteps a staccato rhythm on the hardwood floor. This wasn't an accidental oversight. It was a power play, a move designed to make me feel small and powerless. I knew Karen had always resented me, ever since I had politely corrected her during a board meeting about a new recycling bylaw. The memory of her venomous glare flashed in my mind. She'd been waiting for an opportunity. And this, a wedding, her daughter's wedding, was her grand stage. My phone was a useless brick, dead from an overzealous battery-saving spree. But my laptop was alive. I logged into the HOA's digital archive, my fingers flying across the keyboard with a frantic, focused energy. Bylaws, regulations, fine print. I read until my eyes ached, the legalese blurring into a meaningless soup. Then I found it, buried deep in an addendum from a decade ago. A clause so obscure it was practically forgotten. Any planned event on private property that utilizes a neighbor's adjacent common space or property requires a written agreement, signed by all parties, and a formal permit from the association at least 30 days prior to the event. I smirked. No permit. No signed agreement. My heart gave a little leap of victorious, vengeful delight. But that wasn't the twist. Oh no. The twist was something else entirely. Just as I was about to rush out, a timid knock on my front door. It was my elderly neighbor, Mr. Abernathy, a kind, soft-spoken man I often helped with his groceries. He held a small, crumpled piece of paper. I think this is for you," he stammered, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and apology. "Karen's daughter. She left this. Said it was a special little surprise." He handed it to me. It was a handwritten note from the bride, a sweet girl named Chloe who had always been kind. It read, "I'm so sorry. Mom said it was an HOA common space. Please don't be mad. She just wants the perfect day." My anger, which had been a solid, burning block, suddenly fractured into 1,000 pieces of complex emotion. This wasn't just Karen's hubris. She had lied to her own daughter. She had manufactured a story to manipulate her. The sound of the quartet swelled again. A sickeningly joyful fanfare. It was time to act. My feet moved with a purpose I hadn't felt in days. The door swung open. And the music, the laughter, the clinking glasses of what I now knew was an ill-gotten celebration, washed over me. The guests, dressed in their finest, were milling about, admiring the view from my patio, the same view I enjoyed every single morning. Their happy chatter felt like 1,000 tiny needles. My eyes, however, were locked on Karen. She was holding court near the floral arch, a glass of champagne in her hand. Her laugh aloud, abrasive cackle. I took a deep breath, the air thick with the scent of lilies and the oppressive perfume of her victory. Karen, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. We need to talk. She turned, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Oh, honey, can't this wait? We're about to start the toasts. She waved me off with a dismissive flick of her wrist. I didn't move. My gaze was steady, unwavering. No, I said, louder this time, my voice carrying an edge of steel. It can't. A few guests turned to look. The groom, a nervous young man named Michael, approached. Is everything okay? He asked, his brow furrowed with concern. Oh, it's nothing. Karen chimed in quickly, her tone airy. Just a small neighborly misunderstanding. We're all friends here. Her attempt to brush me aside only fueled the fire. I pulled out my tablet, the screen a glowing beacon in the late afternoon sun. I don't think it's a misunderstanding, I said, my voice resonating with an authority that even surprised me. According to the HOA bylaws, Section 17, Addendum 4, B, any event using a neighbor's property requires a signed agreement and a permit. You have neither. A hush fell over the crowd. The string quartet, sensing the shift, abruptly stopped playing mid-note. A dissonant, jarring silence taking its place. Karen's face, a second ago flushed with celebratory warmth, went pale. Her mouth opened and closed soundlessly, like a fish out of water. That's ridiculous, she sputtered, her voice no longer a confident boom, but a thin, reedy whisper. An old rule. It doesn't apply. But it did. And we both knew it. It's still in the archives, I said, gesturing to the glowing screen on my tablet. And I'm pretty sure you know that. You're the one who wrote the bylaws. The crowd gasped. A collective intake of breath. Michael, the groom, looked at his mother with wide, questioning eyes. Mom, is that true? Karen's composure, her carefully constructed facade of control, was cracking. Of course not. Darling, it's an old rule. A mistake. The lie hung in the air. A sour, rotting fruit. But I wasn't done. I held up the crumpled note from Chloe. And I don't think your daughter would agree. She clearly thought this was an HOA common space, which you told her it was. You lied to her. Karen, you hijacked my home and lied to your own child just to make a point. The words hit her like a physical blow. Her shoulders slumped. The guests, the friends and family she had invited to witness her triumph, now looked at her with a mixture of pity and contempt. They weren't just judging me. They were judging her. The HOA board members, who had been chatting happily by the bar, now strode over, their faces grim. Karen, the chairman, Mr. Henderson, said quietly, is this true? She couldn't speak. She could only shake her head, her watery eyes fixed on me, the architect of her very public, very painful humiliation. The string quartet, bless their hearts, packed up their instruments with a speed that suggested they had seen this kind of thing before. The caterers began to slowly, methodically, pack away the untouched appetizers. The wedding was over before it had even begun. Karen, the all-powerful queen of the HOA, was now just a woman with a ruined dress and a shattered reputation. Her grand stage turned into a wasteland of her own making. Standing there on my reclaimed patio, now littered with the wreckage of a wedding that wasn't. I felt a strange mixture of triumph and weariness. The guests, one by one, offered their quiet apologies as they shuffled past, their footsteps a soft rustle of regret. Michael, the groom, came over, his face a mask of profound embarrassment. I'm so sorry, he said, his voice barely audible. We'll have everything cleared out immediately. I simply nodded, the anger in my heart replaced by a hollow emptiness. It was a Pyrrhic victory. Perhaps. My quiet Sunday was gone, replaced by this chaotic, emotionally draining spectacle. But as I watched Karen being led away by her husband, her face buried in her hands, her sobs a raw, ragged sound, I felt something else, something deeper. I felt a sense of peace. I had stood up for myself. I had not let her walk all over me, or my home. The story of what happened would spread throughout the neighborhood, not as a tale of my petulance, but as a cautionary one about the dangers of unchecked arrogance and the importance of standing your ground. It was an uncomfortable, messy truth, but it was mine. A faint breeze rustled through the rose arch. A silent, natural sigh of relief. This experience, this fight, had taught me a valuable lesson that sometimes the hardest battles are the ones fought for a piece of your own sanity. And as I finally sat down, alone, on my now empty patio, looking out at the fading light of the day, I had to wonder, what do you do when justice is served, but it tastes so bitter? Was I right to ruin her day? Or did two wrongs just make a bigger, uglier mess?